I want to know absolutely everything that's happened up to now.
Well, let's see. First, the Earth cooled, and then the dinosaurs came. But they got too big and fat, so they all died, and they turned into oil. And then the Arabs came, and they bought Mercedes-Benzes. And Prince Charles...
You know I couldn't make a planer video without a classic airplane clip. Welcome to Flynndogg Woodwork. Today, I'm making a major planer upgrade. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. So let's not waste any more time and get right to it. So this tool that we're going to be taking a look at today is all about precision and accuracy over at the planer, which can be a little bit difficult if you're dealing with different thicknesses of wood. So the planer that I have is a DeWalt 735X. Now I'm really pleased with this planer, but it is sometimes difficult to dial in those perfect measurements. Just like with most planers, this DeWalt has a scale on the side that allows you to adjust it up and down to find your desired measurement. But there's one problem with that scale. It's very hard to dial in the exact same scale for a variety of different woods that have different thicknesses. Another nice feature of this planer is it does have a depth stop. This allows you to prevent the planer from going below a certain depth. And I use that depth stop all the time. It's a great feature that allows you to get your wood to approximately the same thickness. I will have to say, however, it's not perfect. If you're doing something like a tabletop glue up, you really want all your wood to be exactly the same thickness. And a style that I really like with tabletops is using a variety of different species of wood inside my tabletop. So I'm always dealing with rough cut lumber that's all different varieties of different thicknesses. And because of this, I may mill up one of the species to the exact thickness that I want. Then when I move on to the next species, it can sometimes be difficult to recreate that exact same thickness. And that's the reason why I purchased this next planer accessory that I've had my eye on for a long time.
Jay Quellen.
Do you mean Jacqueline?
I've got my eye on you, Jay Quellen.
So what is this planer accessory? Well, let's go check it out. So this next tool comes from Acme Tools. I haven't heard of the Acme brand since Wile E. Coyote was trying to kill the Roadrunner. So what is this tool? Well, let's break into this box and check it out. So inside this box, we have the Wixey digital planer readout with fractions. Let's get this thing installed. So inside the box, you can see you have the digital planer readout as well as 2 bags of hardware. Now it's time to take it over to the planer and show you how to install this. So the first thing that we need to do is to remove this red measuring gauge. And this is done by removing these 2 screws from the planer. You're going to want to save those 2 screws because we're going to use them later. So now that we have that red measuring gauge removed, it's time to go over to the actual digital readout and install a footer. Now for the DeWalt 735X, you actually don't need to have the footers for the final install. However, by installing it on the very bottom of the gauge, this will give you support as you set it up. You simply screw it into the bottom, and then we can go over to the planer. So now that we have that footer installed, you can see how this is going to help us support the gauge as we rest it against our planer. Now for this next step, you're going to need a measuring device or a ruler that you know is dead flat. You're going to rest this against the planer bed as well as the Wixey and make sure that everything's in alignment. So for this next step, we're really interested in the foot of the Wixey device. We're going to be resting our straight edge against the planer table as well as the foot of the Wixey device. Now as you can see from this angle here, our straight edge is resting above our planer table. We want the footing of our Wixey device and the planer table to be even or the Wixey device to be just a little bit higher. You never want the Wixey footing to be below the planer table. So to adjust this, I'll just adjust the footing until I see my straight edge fall down to the planer table. Now with our footing in place, I then can flip the Wixey around and remove the backing of the double-sided tape. So I'm going to do that next. So now that we have the double-sided tape exposed, I'm then going to place it right over the original measuring gauge. Before I adhere the tape to the actual planer, I just want to reconfirm that we're in alignment with the footing of the Wixey and the planer bed. Once I feel comfortable with that, I'll then adhere the tape to the planer. Now that we have the Wixey temporarily mounted to the planer, I'm now going to take the measuring rule and place it to the side. Now we're going to drill a couple of holes into the frame of the Wixey so that we can permanently affix this to the planer. So on the wixey frame, there's 2 holes that we're going to take the included drill bit and drill through the original measuring gauge. With the 2 holes drilled out, I now can take the mounting screws and attach the wixey to the frame of the planer. Now that I have the wixey firmly attached to the planer with the 2 mounting screws, I now can place my measuring gauge back into place, making sure that I attach the tensioning springs. Now it's time to install the angle bracket along with a washer using the 2 screws that originally held the red marker. In this case, we just want to loosely attach it right now so that we can make adjustments down the road. On the digital readout on the left side, we're going to unscrew that screw and attach this angle bracket with the same screw.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Now a little bit of tip here, when you're unscrewing those screws, make sure that you keep a very close eye on them. I just spent about an hour trying to find that little washer that came off the side of that wixey. With the washer in hand, I now can attach this angle bracket. And once again, we're just looking for a loose attachment here. Once we have that angle bracket in line, we can attach the 2 angle brackets with the provided nut and bolt. Now that we have the wixey loosely affixed to the planer, it's time to do some of our first calibrations. So in order to do this, I'm going to set my depth stop to one of my most used settings, and that's 3/4 of an inch. Then it's just a matter of lowering my planer until I hit that depth. Now that we've done that, I'll adjust the very top of the digital readout so that it equals 3/4 of an inch. Once that's done, I can tighten the screw on the side. Along with the side screw, we can also start to tighten down the other screws. Now that we have this securely affixed to the planer, it's time to power this thing on. Now this thing doesn't come with AAA batteries, so you're going to need a couple of AAA batteries. So now that we have this thing fired up, it's time to really dial in that calibration. In order to do this, we need to grab a piece of wood and mill it down. Now, if you don't have a jointer, you don't have to do this, but since I have one, I'm going to go ahead and do this because I want this calibration to be as accurate as possible. What I'm looking to do here is to face plane one side of this board so that I can get it completely flat. Now that we have this side freshly jointed, I want to turn the board over and mark the heck out of it. I want to make sure that I have markings all on this board to make sure that we plane off this side. So with one side face jointed and this side completely marked up, I'm going to run this through the planer until all these markings disappear. So now that I've planed and jointed this wood, I can be completely confident that this side of the wood and this side of the wood are completely parallel. Now let's grab our calipers and see how thick this wood is. So if I place my calipers on the wood, you can see that it reads at 1.2645. So that's what we're shooting for. So the next thing that I need to do is to place the wood on the foot of the wixey and place the measuring device right on the top of the wood. Then I'll press and hold the on official button. This will zero it out. Then I can remove the wood. So now that we've zeroed out the wixey, you can see that it reads the exact same thickness that we measured the wood at, 1.26 inches. And that's really all there is to calibrations. We used the calipers on this piece of wood and we got 1.2645, and when we look at the wixey, it's at 1.26. So you can't get any more accurate than that. Lastly, let's take a closer look at some of the buttons on the device. You can see there's an on-off switch at the very bottom. Above that is an absolute or increment button. If you want to know the absolute thickness of your wood, you have it in abs mode.
So when I press this button, I'm gonna blast my abs.
Bro, they are already blasted. Tell me, does that thing like get your glutes and your quads? Because I got the...
If you press it again, this will be increments. So if you move your planer up and down, you can see how much you've adjusted that. At the very top, you can see there's a millimeter and inches button. This allows you to go from inches to millimeters to inches. And you can see from the side, this will actually do fractions of inches. So it's as simple as that. This really was an easy installation, and if I wasn't doing the filming, I bet I could get this done in less than a half hour. This thing gives me the confidence to know that all my wood has the same thickness.
Confidence is very sexy.
So if you're looking to dial in the precision of your milling, consider getting the Wixey digital planer readout. Well, that's going to do us for today, folks. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and leave a comment. It really does help out this small woodworking channel. Also, I'll leave a link in the description for this Wixey tool so you can go check it out for yourself. Until next time, take care as always.